Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. Iron Man 223 from 1987. This is the era that I was collecting Iron Man. I have all these issues pretty beat up, but regardless, they are absolute favorites of mine. I must have read these stories, uh, I want to say hundreds of times while I was in high school, just which is funny because I haven't read them in years, which is part of the reason I created this channel, is so I could read comic books with you guys. So here we go. Face to face with Force. And so here we are. It lets us know that we're off the port of Guatemala. And here comes Force. I actually love this logo. The V, but that's actually an F. That's pretty cool. So we got these guys here saying "Get 'em," and the title of our story is Counterforce. We have the basic creative team that we have had for most of this run. David, I Tom McFarlane says Michelinie. I say Michelinie, but I don't know. And Bob Layton plot the issue together. Michelinie does the scripts, Layton does the inks, and Mark Bright, rest in peace, Mark Bright, does the layouts. So Mark Grenwald, also rest in peace, is our editor, with Jim Shooter, our editor in chief. So notice that everybody has the letter D in their name here. And so this guy here says, the boss ain't gonna like this. And the other guy says, no kidding, Force, this is one of his favorite operatives. Who would have thought that the guy would just take it on the lam like this? And you can see he's destroying everything here. And off he goes. He's broken out. Start the engines. We'll have to go after. And suddenly he uses his power here, or his whatever. And this guy goes, the instruments, they've gone dead. Must have been an electromagnetic pulse. Force controls energy fields. We should have expected that. The other guy says, no matter. The drain only lasts a few moments. As soon as we've recharged, we'll be ready for surface travel. But, of course, it ends up exploding here. So Force was not going to wait around. We got this vertical panel here. So this guy goes out and says, hey, Santana, we're dead in the water. Better use the shore side horn and contact the boss fast. The boss, of course, is Justin Hammer here. He says, what is it, Miguel? He says, and Miguel says, I'm sorry to disturb you, sir, but we have something of an emergency. Now, Justin Hammer's always in a robe, kind of like, oh my god, who was the Playboy guy? His name escapes me. Hugh Hefner. Hugh Hefner always wore his robe with the shirt. So anyway, Miguel continues. Force has gone rogue. He's been acting strange for some time, keeping to himself, not talking to anyone. Now he's jumped ship. After turning the ship, he jumped from into scrap. So, and Miguel says, pity. In his armored form, Clay Wilson is a source of considerable income. I prefer that he not be damaged. Employ the safe lock circuit, would you, Miguel? And he says, yes, sir. So he pushes that button here. So it says here that high above the mountains, Force falters in his flight. So apparently, that thing is taking over his suit, and you can see now he is returning. So it must have been some kind of fail safe. So we are here in Rodeo Drive in Los Angeles, and Rhodey says, "You really sure? You really sure you want that, Chief? I mean, you already got 4 Rolexes." And Tony Stark says, "Every man has to have a hobby." And the lady here says, "I don't blame you. European quality is unexcelled." And Tony says, "Actually, miss, I could make a strong case for American craftsmanship." And she says, "Of course you could. Being an American craftsman, you're Tony Stark, aren't you? We almost met at a party in St. Moritz, but a sweet thing with a 380 DIQ stole you away before I could introduce myself. I'm Ray Lacoste." So, and Tony says, "I'm charmed. Any chance I could make up for that little faux pas in Switzerland?" "Well, my place is nearby," she says. "Well, I guess I'll see you back at Senator Price, huh, Chief?" "Not necessarily, Mr. And he says, "Jim Rhodes. Would you care to join us, Mr. Rhodes?" "Well, if you insist." And she says, "I'm afraid you misjudged my intentions. When I said my place was near, I meant very near, as in next door." And so he reads the sign, "Do's and don'ts. I've heard about this place. Supposed to be a spot for style. You run it?" And she says, "Run it, own it, designed it. Do's and don'ts is for the complete person. Everything from hair cutting to full body massages. Speaking of which, you have a wonderful hair, Tony, but the cut is, shall we say, yesterday. Want me to fix it?" And Tony says, "I didn't know it was broken," or he thinks it here. "And you, Mr. Rhodes, look like a man who would appreciate a fine manicure." And he says, "Sorry, but I don't go for that sort of." Darlene, and here comes Darlene. "On second thought, these nails are getting downright nasty." So, and so here we get some indication that time has passed, and we can see someone is coming there, and Force has arrived, and here we have Stark Towers. And Tony got himself a perm. Isn't that something? And Rhodey says, "All done?" "Yep, what do you think?" "Whoa, that's some chillin' do, Chief. I kind of like it myself, so look at that." I think he runs with this perm for quite a while here, so it's actually pretty cool. "Thanks, Ray," says Tony. "See you Friday. I'll pick you up at 7," she says. And so they go to pick up the car here. Tony asks about the manicure, and he says, "You've seen one buff nail, you've seen them all." Here we got a skateboarder here, and he's singing a song here. And he falls down. Rhodey helps him out. And Tony then gets to see the nails and the purple and the rhinestone there. So, and he says, "I was lost in Darlene's baby blues. She could have stuck a rhinestone up my nose and I wouldn't have noticed." So, all right. So he ends up cutting the nail here, and his car phone rings. Back in the day, there were no cell phones, so there were very few, only the uber rich, and I don't know, there were very few cell towers out there. So, anyway, it's ring, and he thinks it's Mrs. Arbogast, but it's this guy here, Garrison Quint, head of security. "We've got a problem, sir. Some costume joker buzzing SE. We can't find Iron Man." SE being Stark Enterprises. And so Tony says, "Take the wheel, Rhodey, and find me someplace private to change. It looks like I'm going to be taking a little detour back to the office." So back then he had to have the armor in a suitcase. That's how he would put it on and off, kind of like it's much more easier nowadays with how it's portrayed, but back then that's how it was portrayed. So here comes Force landing. They shoot, but it doesn't work. Then he's hit from behind by repulsor rays, which means Iron Man has arrived. I like this panel. And speaking of Iron Man, here he is. I love this armor. I know it was a very short little bit. So it started in issue 200. By the way, I have a playlist with Iron Man. Feel free to check that out. And so I would say it was about 2.5 years that this armor was on. So, but I really enjoyed it, particularly because it was that time that I collected Iron Man during this era, and continued through the end of the John Romita Jr. John Byrne era. Iron Man recognizes Force and tells the other two to get out, and he's holding his arms up like he's giving up. He points then to his throat, and Iron Man guesses he can't talk, and then he points here to the administration building, and Iron Man says, "Quint, get back here." And so off they go. Um, Tony says, "Easy, Mrs. Arbogast. Just move away from your desk slowly." And she stops and she says, "Not on your life, Buster. This Joker may have a hot spit on the supervillain circuit, but he lays one finger on my computer, he's going to be typing in a splint." And Iron Man is like, "Please, Mrs. Arbogast, it's important." Well, oh, oof. And so he is actually going to write on the computer. I believe Mr. Stark has what you want in his sub-basement labs. We'll go there. He lets him know. Can't communicate. Do you have a Nox A79 cable? And so Tony thinks here, besides the walls are reinforced and there aren't any civilians around, could be safer just in case. Now, real quick, and I know I make mention before of this, but I truly enjoy Bob Layton doing Iron Man. I love his inks on it. I love these little dots that he puts kind of to create a light source here. So, and look at Jim Rhodes with the gun. All right. So, Iron Man continues. Mr. Stark is safe in another part of the compound. He's communicating his instructions to me via my helmet radio. And according to him, this last adjustment should just about do it. And so now he goes. Hear me, can you? Thank heaven. Hammer built a precautionary safe lock into the suit when activated. It only blocks any communications I try to send out, but if I try to remove the armor, it will release the powers for my weapon systems internally and electrocute me. So I came here in hopes that Tony Stark, with his electronics expertise, could help me escape alive. If he can, there's something very important I can do for him in return. And Iron Man says, I've already run a scan with my armor sensors. You're telling the truth about the safe lock. According to Mr. Stark, the circuit might be negated by reversing the polarity of the stemming coil if you're willing to take the risk. And so it says here, Force nods. And so Iron Man does exactly. And here he says, it should be safe to open your armor now, Force, but no guarantees. The decision is up to you. This is here after several seconds. He decides to do it here. And so he says, still alive, thanks. And by now, the way you can, sorry. And by the way, you can call me Clay Wilson now. There's one more precaution, Mr. Stark. Insists upon before he'll agree to talk to you. You must with you personally. You must remove the battlesuit completely and turn it over to me. But, well, hey, why not? I'm through with it. I love the silhouettes here. It's pretty cool. I like it here. So it says here an hour later. Mind putting the gun away, it makes me nervous. And Jim says, good. Now maybe you can imagine how unarmed citizens feel when you strut your stuff as force. And he says, believe me, I know. Love the screen tones that are being applied here. Pretty cool. And so here comes Iron Man again as Tony Stark. Mr. Wilson, I'm Tony Stark. I'm told you have something important to exchange for my people freeing you from your armor. And Force says, yeah, I've got something real important to turn over. And he says, me and everything I know about Justin Hammer. You see, I was real young when I became Force. I was a kid, lust for power, and I'd do anything to quench it. It says here in Submariner 68. So when Hammer's men approached me, offering to finance my criminal career in return for half of my profits and promising to make me even more power, I said, sure. But over the years, the dream turned bitter. I may have been powerful, but Justin Hammer had more real power than I'd ever have. He used words subtlety. He manipulated me. Pretty soon I was hardly more than a costume lackey, pulling jobs for him that I didn't understand. As I got older, I started seeing the faces of the people I hurt, started getting sick of the pain pain and sorrow I was causing. And I made the mistake of telling Hammer, so he included a safe lock in the next batch of my improvements on my armors. So this morning the revulsion finally outweighed the danger of escape. I came here because I needed help getting out of my battlesuit, and because I needed protection. Not only do you have Iron Man working for you, but Tony Stark is one of the few names I've heard Hammer refer with respect and a little concern. So how about it? And Tony says, Mr. Wilson, I'm sorry. I can't give you what you want. You talk of reform, but you're still a criminal, and you have to be judged by law. I'll take you to the police myself, put in a good word for you, provide legal counsel, but that's all I can do, he says. Great. On my own, Hammer to kill me for sure, as an example to other potential runaways. Some choice. And Rhodey's like, you sure you're doing the right thing, Chief? And they're whispering here. And Tony says, I'm doing what's right, Rhodey. Whether it's the right thing, only time will tell. So off they go. They take him here to the police headquarters. Here is Rhodey waiting in the car. Excellent work, Mr. Stark. If more civilians like you got involved, we'd have the streets cleared up of these costume maniacs in no time. Sergeant, see that Mr. Stark gets every cooperation. Yes, sir, Lieutenant Sicking? So, Tony says, nice set of wheels. Bet it comes handy in traffic jam. This, sir, is an ergonomically designed armored breaching vehicle used to gain access to fortified criminals' strongholds. It would never be used for such frivolous duty as traffic control. Now, if you'll excuse me, and they both say jerk, or I think jerk to each other. And so he gets in and he says, Lieutenant Sicking? Sir, we've had an interesting development here. And so, of course, they work for Justin Hammer because, hey, why wouldn't they? And so Justin Hammer is sitting there by the pool still wearing his little robe. That is good news, Lieutenant. It might be wise for you to remain away from the station house for a while. And so he talks to himself. One of my tactical squads is in the area, and I shall be deploying them directly. Oh, sorry, he was still talking to him. My bad. Oh, and by the way, there'll be a little something extra in your bribe this week, he says. So, and this one's yours, Wilson. Sorry we couldn't get you the presidential suite. Chuck Manson's in town. Smart guy. That'd be Charlie Manson here. I'm trusting you with my life, Stark. Don't let me down. So, of course, these guys, look at that. Their dress here. Excuse me. We're looking for Clayton Carson. Sorry, sir, but I can't give out that information. That's precisely all right. We'll find them ourselves. So, and so we have Blizzard, the Beetle, and of course Whiplash. So, what was that? Backlash. I thought it was Whiplash. It was Backlash. My bad. And so, Blizzard says 1 cup on ice. And Backlash says, good. And my cybernetic whip will put those bozos out. But it sounds like they got reinforcements coming up. Beetle, no need for concern, Backlash. My Electrobite, I like Beetle's costume, should shatter any hopes they have of stopping us. And Backlash here, that door must that must be the door to the cell block. Solid steel. No sweat, and uses his whip to destroy the door. And Backlash goes, uh-oh. And I love Blizzard. I love this. Jeez, how many cops they got in here? Ain't no one out chasing the bad guys? We are the bad guys, stupid. Come on, Flat Fleet. Oh, Flat Feet. Give it your best shot. And they got their weapons out. But when they shoot, he uses his whip to deflect them. And so this guy says, get Perkins up here with that concussion gun on the double. Yes, sir. Concussion gun. I don't like the sound of that. We'd better stop them fast. Chill out, Beetle. I'll keep them back with an instant ice wall. And Beetle says, no, you idiot. And suddenly they hear, boom, that concussion gun. That's our heaviest firepower. Must be big trouble. And Force is like, Stark, what's going on? And Whiplash here talks to Blizzard. Hammer's gonna have our heads, you numbskull. Your brilliant ice wall just blocked off the corridor we needed to use to get to Force. Hey, cut me some slack, huh? I'm new at this. So, and Beetle says, enough. If we can't use the corridor, we'll go through the wall. I'll use the suction grippers in my fingers to rip us a new door. So, off they go. It takes here several X walls later. So, and Iron Man's like, oh no, no. So, Stark, do something. Call Iron Man on your signal watch. Anything. And so Tony recognizes the guys, and they freeze this cop here. He goes, I'm helpless. My Iron Man armor's in the trunk of the Mercedes out in the parking lot. I like how they add the Mercedes. And without it, and Backlash uses his whip on the cell. Of course, Force is like, no, please don't. But I've got to try something. Can't just stand there. And this guy goes, back off, old man, unless you want me to turn your eyeballs into ice cubes. And Backlash is like, forget him, kid. We got bigger fish to fry. Say sayonara to your butt, Wilson. You're dead. And Tony Stark says, oh, Lord, what have I done? And here it says, more importantly, what will he do? Find out next issue. So, hope you like it. I love this run of Iron Man. I'm going to go through Bob Layton's second run with David Michelinie, because like I said, I really enjoy this run. So, hope you guys like it too. Like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.